Gold overflowed from the hands of Mansa Musa and crashed economies from Cairo to Venice. Today, boardroom empires like Dangote's bend entire nations. Exploring the dark legacy of the 5 richest black men in history means facing how wealth built on power can shatter worlds and leave scars no fortune can conceal. But what hidden prices have been paid, and who is still counting the cost? Mansa Musa rose from the red earth of Mali with more gold than the world had ever seen. His empire stretched from the dense forests of Bambouk and Bouré to the salt-stained deserts of Taghaza, controlling rivers of wealth that fed a royal treasury beyond imagination. Musa did not hide his power. He carried it across continents. In 1324, he set out for Mecca, leading a caravan so vast it swallowed the horizon. Chroniclers counted 60,000 souls, 100 camels each groaning under hundreds of pounds of gold. Slaves and nobles, soldiers and scribes all marched in his shadow, drawn by the promise of glory and the weight of gold dust pressed into their hands. When Musa reached Cairo, gold flowed from his fingers like water. He gave gifts to sultans, merchants, beggars in the street. He paid debts, funded mosques, and left gold piled high in the markets. The city's pulse quickened, but with every coin tossed, the value of gold slipped. Prices soared. Bread cost more. Merchants watched their savings shrink. Musa's generosity rippled outward, shaking the foundations of Egypt's economy and echoing through the Mediterranean. Venetian traders, Genoese bankers, North African merchants all felt the aftershock as the price of gold tumbled for over a decade. Cairo's gold lost a quarter of its worth. Recovery took 12 years, and in the end, the scars remained. But the riches Musa carried came from hard hands and broken backs. In the gold fields and salt mines, Wangara miners dug deep under the eye of the crown. Tribute poured in from conquered lands. Taxes weighed heavy on those who moved goods across Mali's borders. Oral histories speak of hardship and hunger, of labor that built palaces but left little for the laborers. Musa's empire dazzled the world, yet its brilliance was cast by the shadow of extraction and control. He built great mosques and called scholars to Timbuktu, raising towers of learning on the bones of empire. Musa's pilgrimage made Mali a legend, but the legend came at a price. Gold can lift a people to glory or drown them in its flood. The lesson lingers, heavy as a king's ransom. When wealth gathers in the hands of one, the earth trembles, and the world counts the cost for generations. In the heart of Nigeria, a new kind of empire rose, not forged by sword and salt, but by law, decree, and the machinery of modern industry. Aliko Dangote, born to a trading dynasty, mastered the art of statecraft as surely as any king. Where Musa's gold was pulled from the earth, Dangote's fortune was poured from concrete and policy, brick by brick, law by law. The Nigerian government, hungry for self-reliance, drew a line against foreign cement. Imports were banned, licenses revoked, and the market cleared of rivals. In the early 2000s, as privatization swept the nation, Dangote swept up the Benue Cement Company for a price that left competitors grumbling in the shadows. Tax waivers followed, multi-year holidays from the treasury, customs duties erased, loans flowing from state banks. Each policy, each signature, turned the gears of monopoly. Dangote Cement surged, swallowing up demand from Lagos to Kano, then stretching its reach across West Africa. By 2025, a $160 million plant in Côte d'Ivoire stood as proof. A fortress of industry, churning out 3 million tons of cement a year, drawing laborers from the villages, promising jobs and delivering power. But every empire leaves footprints in the dust. Workers marched on the gates in Kogi and Benue, chanting for safety, for wages, for dignity. The strikes of 2008, 2016, and 2021 shut down production, drew police lines, and filled the air with the sound of protest and tear gas. In the shadows of these plants, stories spread of kiln explosions, broken bones, and lives lost. 5 dead in Ibiza, dozens more scarred by work that promised escape but often delivered pain. International labor groups and local unions called for justice, for answers, for the simple right to survive a day's work. The company's promises of safety and reform echoed against the reality of temporary contracts and silent suffering. Dangote's rise is written in the language of progress, yet the ink runs with paradox. Factories bring jobs, but also unrest. Imports vanish, but so does competition. The state claims victory for industry, while critics whisper of oligarchy and capture. In the boardrooms of Lagos, Dangote's name is spoken with awe and caution. A man who bends policy to his will, who builds not just wealth, but the walls that keep others out. As the cement hardens, so does the question. When the law builds a throne for one, who pays the price? The answer lies in the dust, in the hands of the workers, in the silence that follows the siren's wail. Robert F. Smith stood before the Morehouse graduates, promising to wipe away their student debt with the stroke of a billionaire's pen. The crowd erupted, headlines crowned him a hero, and for a moment, the nation witnessed a spectacle of black wealth rewriting the rules. But behind the applause, another story unfolded, one hidden in sealed courtrooms and quiet negotiations. In 2019, Smith signed a non-prosecution agreement with the U.S. government, admitting to years of secret offshore trusts and a $200 million tax evasion scheme. The price of his freedom, $139 million paid back to the IRS, a sum large enough to buy silence, but not forgiveness. Smith's lawyers worked in the shadows for months, bargaining for a deal that would keep his name off the criminal rolls. The media spun his philanthropy as redemption, but the ink on the settlement was barely dry when the Morehouse Pledge made headlines. Some debts erased with a handshake, others paid in installments and interest. For every photo op, there were pages of legal filings. The question lingers: can generosity buy absolution, or does the law bend for those who can afford to settle in secret? In America, the line between benefactor and beneficiary is drawn not in ink, but in dollars and deals. David Steward walked corridors where every handshake felt like a test, every boardroom a silent trial. In the early 2000s, as the tech bubble burst and giants fell, he carried the weight of worldwide technology on his shoulders, alone at the summit, surrounded by a blizzard of layoffs and shuttered screens. The crash didn't care about his vision or the prayers whispered in midnight offices. Sales plummeted, creditors circled. Steward had staked his family's future on loans that now looked like anchors. Nights stretched long, the phone ringing with demands and doubts, but in those hours, no one called to ask what it meant to be the only black man at the top, with no safety net and no peers to confide in. He wrote in his 2004 memoir that he felt watched, waiting for him to stumble. The loneliness pressed in. More than numbers on a spreadsheet, it was the ache of knowing that if he failed, the world would call it proof that men like him didn't belong. Steward survived by faith and grit, but the scars of that isolation ran deep, shaping every decision that followed and every promise he made to open doors for those left outside. Michael Jordan's silhouette rises above the hardwood, but his true empire lives in the seams of 1 billion sneakers. Air Jordan, stamped with his name, churns out $5 billion a year. Every stitch, every swoosh, stitched by hands half a world away. In Vietnam and China, factory gates swing open before dawn. Workers, mostly women, count the hours by the ache in their backs and the whistle of supervisors. Over 100 violations, illegal overtime, stolen wages, threats for union talk, documented by outside audits since 2019. The brand's glow, built on sweat and shadows, radiates far beyond the court. LeBron James, crowned in arenas and boardrooms, watched his Spring Hill company soar to a $725 million valuation. He owns the story, the camera, the means of production. But even this power rides on deals with Nike, on partnerships that circle back to the same supply chains, the same invisible labor. The world calls it black excellence, but the numbers show the bars of the cage. Out of 2,781 global billionaires, only 21 are black, less than 1%. Scarcity isn't an accident, it's a design. Icons become commodities, and the system counts on their brilliance to distract from the cost. The question burns: who profits when black genius is packaged, sold, and rationed like a rare jewel? The reckoning waits in the statistics, in the hands that never touch the wealth they create. Only 21 black billionaires have been recorded out of 2,781 on global lists. The story began with Mansa Musa, whose 1324 pilgrimage destabilized gold markets from Cairo to Venice for more than a decade. It continued with Aliko Dangote, whose empire grew through Nigerian import bans and policy shields, shaping entire industries. Robert F. Smith navigated a $139 million legal settlement while his philanthropy dominated headlines, and David Steward's own diary reveals the isolation at the top of tech. Michael Jordan and LeBron James turned athletic talent into billion-dollar brands, yet audits and labor reports raise questions about who truly profits. Much still remains hidden: full labor records, classified government contracts, and the real impact of monopolies on everyday workers. What we know is this: the concentration of black wealth has always drawn scrutiny, regulation, and resistance. These legacies show that power can open doors or close them. The evidence stands. The legacy persists.